Buonasera a tutti. Questa sera vi proponiamo uno straordinario viaggio all'interno della mostra Più grandi di me, voci eroiche dall'ex Jugoslavia, che abbiamo inaugurato lo scorso 5 maggio qui al Maxi. Ad accompagnarci in questo percorso le due curatrici, Zdenka Badovinac e Giulia Ferracci, che ci introdurranno ai temi della mostra, attorno ai quali più di 50 artisti si sono confrontati per proporre un'idea di futuro volto ai temi quali l'accoglienza, la convivenza e la solidarietà. Per questo straordinario progetto di approfondimento abbiamo anche il contributo di 7 degli artisti in mostra che hanno voluto realizzare per noi alcuni videomessaggi nei quali raccontano il loro lavoro, ma ci comunicano anche un messaggio fatto di resistenza e speranza. Buona visione, lascio ora la parola a Zdenka.
The title of the exhibition, Bigger Than Myself, the heroic voices from ex-Yugoslavia, tell us everything what we want to know about this exhibition. First of all, the Bigger Than Myself refers to two forces that dominates us. The first is the force of the positive values of the ideas that one is willing to die for, and the second force is the force that controls us, that dominates us completely, and this is the force of the global capital. In the exhibition there is hidden also the third force, and this is the force of the non-human agency about nature, the forests, the trees, the animals, and so on. The subtitle of the exhibition, The Heroic Voices from Ex-Yugoslavia, somehow locates the exhibition in the territory of former Yugoslavia and in its history. When I was invited to do this exhibition, I didn't want, I don't want to do another Balkan show. I don't want to exoticize Balkan or to commodify the region. What was the case before in some exhibitions from the Balkan and also the exhibitions about other regions. So the question is always how to avoid the commodification of the space that the exhibition is about. So as I see, the possible answer is always related to the concrete and actual urgencies that are not only urgencies of one locality, but are urgencies that relate to the whole world. So what are the most difficult problems of this planet today? I would say, as we see in Europe, especially in the countries of former socialism, the rising authoritarianism, in Europe rising fascism. We have the return of patriarchalism. We have a lot of politicians today that are misogyn. We need some feminist voices to oppose them more and more. And then, of course, we have the global issues as it is the global capital that instrumentalized the most advanced technology that controls us, especially internet today. And we have, of course, we have the planetary environmental crisis. So to try to contribute to the better future, we need to rethink what we as the individuals or we as a society can do. So one of the answers to many dilemmas of today is, first of all, that there is no society anymore, that we lost the society which can be defined only as a society of solidarity. If there is no solidarity, if there is no comradeship, there is no society anymore. There are only, as Margaret Thatcher said in the 80s, there are only individuals. So the thing that is crucial that we need to fight for is the society. So how to build a society? How can society be built today? I think, and the exhibition answers that the only possible way is collective, that the society can be built by many collective and individual heroic gestures. So this question of heroic gestures from former Yugoslavia somehow tries to think about our tradition, the tradition of socialist Yugoslavia, of the partisan liberation struggle against fascism, against the occupation in the Second World War, the positive sides of socialism, the estimation of the workers, the different treatment of women, at least on the declarative level, the women was equal as the men in socialism. So of course, many of the values in socialism degenerated. In reality, they were not as they were planned, ideally. But still, you know, this ideal plan was present, and it was always repeated in reality. So there was a measure. This ideal frame was the measure. So we can measure what was the difference between ideal reality and concrete reality. And this is very important experience that somehow is present in us, in all of the people that live in the territory of former Yugoslavia. And the experience of the emancipatory ideas and better future is something that our heroic gestures, the heroic gestures that are depicted in the works of the artists at the exhibition are worth to revisit again and again. So the exhibition, on one hand, talks about the heroes as we knew before, for example, in the Second World War, in the years after the war, in socialism, when in Yugoslavia, like in other socialist countries, the best workers were awarded, like the best worker of the month, of the year. There was a special name, Udarnik, they were called, and there are some works at the exhibition that refer to the best workers. So let's say the classic model of the hero, we can already learn about it here at the beginning of the exhibition, where, for example, we have the beginning of the biggest installation in this exhibition, and this is the work of Group Irvin, Vasiskunst, Bosnia and Herzegovina, where more than 80 heroes and heroines are portrayed from the Second World War. And the artists are Bosnian artists from that period, and the work was stored in the Museum of Revolution in Sarajevo until Irvin Group found it and framed it in their typical heavy black frames. And then we have here the work of Andrej Škufca, who illustrates the biggest force that dominates and controls us today, and this is the force of the global capital. So somehow, with this abstract amorphous form, among other things, he wants also to visualize what seems to be impossible to visualize, and this is this hidden force of the capital. So here we have these two forces present. And as I said at the beginning, there is a third force hidden in the exhibition, and this is the force of the non-human agency. And when we enter the exhibition, we enter through these trees, the alley of the trees, the work of Nada Perlja, and there are also some other plants at the exhibition, but not only that, the works, for example, in the part where you see many women artists at the beginning of the exhibition, there is the work, for example, of Marta Popivoda and Anja Vujanovic, the work that is about a woman heroine from the Second World War, but the work is situated in the forest. This forest is abstracted in a way, but it is presented as the agency, as the human, this heroine is. So we have actually two heroes there. We have the human being and we have the nature, because the nature in the Second World War was the, let's say, the comrade of the partisans. So they were the comrades in arms, so to speak, in this liberation front in the Second World War. So the exhibition actually is about the history, is about our present moment, but it is also about the future. It tries to propose something better for the future that can't be only the future on this planet controlled by us humans, but can only be the future with a new society that includes non-human agencies. And the exhibition ends with the work of Maja Smrekar, one of the most important artists that works with the non-human condition. And she treats, for example, her family as a hybrid family, the family that includes also the animals. So the exhibition proposes us first that we need the society of solidarity, the society of care, and we need a society that goes beyond our central position, the central position of the human being that is destroying this planet and with its capitalistic industry, it also provoked the biggest problem that we have today, and this is the problem of the COVID virus. We wouldn't have the COVID virus without deforestation, without human intervention in the ecosystems of, that were different creatures, different animals and plants and humans coexisted in balance.
Eccoci qui nella Galleria 3 del Maxi dove è ospitata questa grande mostra retrospettiva dedicata alla former Jugoslavia. Uno dei capitoli di cui ampiamente Zdenka Badovinac, co-curatrice di questa mostra, ha parlato è dedicata alla libertà e ai segnali democratici che questa popolazione ha trasmesso e trasmette in continuazione attraverso le opere in mostra. Uno dei principali lavori esposti in questa mostra cardine che si diffonde capillarmente su tutti gli altri capitoli espositivi è rappresentato dal quintetto Irwin, il cui nome è appunto il femminile omonimo di Duchamp, Rose, Irving Selavi. Questo quintetto di artisti ha raccolto gli oltre 100 opere pittoriche realizzate tra gli anni 41 e 45, opere realizzate da pittori per lo più sconosciuti e che vennero esposti nel Museo Nazionale della Bosnia ed Erzegovina intorno agli anni 50. Ma di che cosa si tratta? Si tratta di circa 87 tele in questo caso che rappresentano personaggi dimenticati della storia per la lotta della liberazione in Jugoslavia appunto durante la seconda guerra mondiale. Qui al museo abbiamo fatto un lavoro straordinario per associare a ciascun nome, a ciascun volto una storia e quindi attraverso un sistema di QR code è possibile approfondire la vita di ciascuno. Si tratta di figure eterogenee, eroi civili, da ingegneri a studentesse, a medici. Figure che hanno davvero restituito non soltanto importanza ma anche un messaggio di vera e propria resistenza per la liberazione della Jugoslavia.
Most of the portraits of the people's heroes from Bosnia and Herzegovina were made by Bosnian and Herzegovina artists in the aftermath of the Second World War, and the collection was completed by 1954. Also, the idea was to include them in the permanent collection of the Museum of the Revolution of Bosnia and Herzegovina. That was never realized. Instead, the public first saw them in the exhibition in the mid-50s, after which they were deposited in the museum storerooms, falling into the oblivion. This was the situation until 2001, when Michael Fer and Asja Mantic invited two members of Irvin to help them to prepare and stage the exhibition of selected works from the collection of the Historical Museum of Bosnia and Herzegovina, which has until 1993 different name, Museum of the Revolution of Bosnia and Herzegovina. This exhibition was entitled Treasures of Socialism, which was in fact exhibition of the Bosnian social realism. With the central piece of this exhibition was collection of the people's heroes. We were thrilled by this collection the moment we saw it in the deposit. We recognized in it a kind of qualities that would make us want to appropriate in the future, to frame it in Irvin typical frames and display it as Vasiscon's Bosnia and Herzegovina. This is by no means our first project of this kind. In 2000, we borrowed 12 works of Slovenian artists from various collections and exhibited them as ready-mades under the title Vasiscon Slovenia. Since then, we had a number of projects in response to particular context of the selected places and areas with which we share a common experience of history relevant to our work, as well as the works of art which content and form relate to our work. This is how we felt about Vasiscon's Bosnia and Herzegovina as well. We believe that the series of decisions we made in connection with Vasiscon's Bosnia and Herzegovina and the relationship between them are comparable to the decisions we made as we created the works that make up the original Vasiscon series back in 1985. When we get some years ago invitation from Museum of Contemporary Art in Banja Luka on the territory of Republika Srpska, we were thinking for quite some time what to do, what kind of exhibition. We didn't want to do just exhibition like business as usual. we wanted to put in consideration to do something what all entities, all Bosnia has in common. And of course, and this was the anti-fascism, the war against occupator, in which partisans from all sides were taking place. So this war heroes are coming from Bosnian, Croatian, Serbian, Muslim and Jewish side. The museum was happy with our proposition and they made an exhibition. And this exhibition then traveled to the gallery Božidar Kostanjo na Krki, which was shown in the church, which is church now, which serves for exhibitions. And after Rome, the exhibition will finally be shown in the Museum of History of Sarajevo, from where this collection belongs.
Nella terza terrazza della Galleria 3 il capitolo espositivo dedicato alla libertà e quindi ai diversi approfondimenti riguardanti non soltanto la storia ma anche gli effetti della storia sulla contemporaneità dell'Europa vengono affrontati da diversi videomaker e in particolar modo una di questi è Milica Tomić, artista, filmmaker appunto e anche esperta in arte installativa e in particolar modo educativa. Ha realizzato 2 performance nel 2009 e nel 2012 rispettivamente a Belgrado e a Roma, dove ha camminato per le strade con un Kalashnikov, emblema e simbolo non soltanto del portato delle guerre, delle 2 guerre civili che hanno caratterizzato la storia della popolazione della former Jugoslavia, ma anche un ricordo della resistenza nel secondo dopoguerra appunto in Belgrado e a Roma.
What if I would take a Kalashnikov and walk through the streets with the rifle in one hand and the grocery bag in another hand? Now we are revealing the whole journey that started in 2009 in Belgrade as a part of this exhibition, Bigger Than Myself, with these photos from the same action that was done in Copenhagen, but also in Rome in 2012. And you can see this now. When I started this walk in Belgrade, I was by my own, without any institution, gallery, or anybody holding my back. So the idea at the beginning was to make another kind of guiding through Belgrade that will reveal other aspects of history that isn't part of public memory and still remains invisible, that is connected to successful anti-fascist and communist actions in Belgrade during the liberation struggle against the Nazi occupation in the city of Belgrade during the Second World War. And none of these actions were publicly marked or memorialized. I wish to discuss and point out the huge shift in understanding of the new definition of war today. After September 11th, with the beginning of the global war, permanent war, or war on terror, a totally new understanding of war emerged that misses and lacks the concept of peace. This work operates in a very simple way. I'm an artist who would like to take a weapon and go into the streets of your city. And the simple request unpacks an enormous, huge network of regulations, securitization laws. I'm indirectly questioning the counter-violence against terror sanctioned by an idea of the nation-state debt justifies the suspension of all constitutional procedures and legal protections. Whether we are in the direct war situation or not, we find ourselves in the state of permanent mobilization. However, it is possible to use armed force without establishing a strict division into the terrorist and terrorized. What if I take this weapon that symbolizes the oppressed and the subjugated, the Kalash weapon, and just walk through the streets as a woman in her 50s, carrying this grocery bag home, and taking this weapon not as a threat, but holding it as a possibility. And look carefully and thoughtfully how the city and the people will respond to this.
A partire da questa sezione ci muoviamo verso la speranza, uno dei capitoli più intriganti di questa mostra, dedicato appunto al movimento del modernismo della ex Jugoslavia, che si sviluppa proprio a partire dagli anni 50 in tutta la penisola. Ma di cosa si tratta? In particolar modo sculture, piani urbanistici e architetture cambiano il loro volto e diventano funzionali, un luogo di speranza e di incontro, ispirandosi non a quello che è l'informale europeo, ma ha delle correnti di derivazione russa. In particolar modo fa parte di questa sezione una protagonista assoluta che è Jasmina Cibic, con un lavoro video e film davvero straordinario. Il miracoloso mandarino è un'opera di Bartók che l'artista ha deciso di dedicare al complesso rapporto che esiste tra il mondo della politica e lo Stato. Siamo sulla rampa che conduce alla Galleria 3 e abbiamo deciso di destinare questa parte di spazio, questa porzione di spazio alla creazione di un green corridor. Di che cosa si tratta? Si tratta dell'ultimo capitolo espositivo di questa mostra dedicato alle metamorfosi, ai cambiamenti non soltanto climatici ma anche strutturali delle specie animali e umane. In particolar modo siamo qui di fronte a 12 alberi che ci accompagnano lungo questo camminamento ed è un invito da parte dell'artista Nada Aprilia a prendersi la responsabilità della sopravvivenza degli elementi organici come quelli degli alberi che il pubblico è invitato ad annaffiare e quindi a mantenere in vita. Nella sezione dedicata alle metamorfosi, quindi a questi passaggi epocali che l'umanità vive e di cui abbiamo avuto diversi segnali nella nostra contemporaneità, non da ultimo nello splendido lavoro di Mobius dedicato all'RNA e alle sequenze del Covid, c'è anche un altro importantissimo artista, un telepata ama definirsi, vincitore per l'arte nella pace UNESCO nel 2016. Parliamo di Marko Pogačnik, che ha realizzato per questa esposizione una serie di 12 disegni che raccontano non soltanto l'importanza degli elementi naturali organici, ma anche di quelli inorganici, ovvero sia tutto contribuisce alla salvaguardia della specie. Dobbiamo rispettare questi elementi come dei veri e propri eroi della nostra contemporaneità.
I am Marko Pogačnik. I live with my family at Čempas in Slovenia. My artwork is dedicated to life on Earth. I wish with my work to support the basic flow of life, but not only as individual, but I work always in collectives. This goes back to the 60s, when in 1965 we created the Ojo movement, later Group Ojo, and we started to work in these new art forms like conceptual art, land art, performance, rituals, and even telepathic projects. But at the end of the 60s, we noticed that this kind of art is becoming part of the artistic establishment, went into galleries, so we stopped as Group Ojo because we were interested how through art would be possible to develop a new kind of human culture that would be in heartfelt connection with all life around. So we created a farming community here at Čempas. We worked with plants, with animals, with minerals, and to create a kind of model of a possible future culture that I call Gaia culture. And this led me to the work of the last 3 decades, when I work in ecological healing, which means using different forms of artwork, always with collective, working on problems that this civilization is performing upon the earth and its beings. And this led me then to notice, I perceived that the earth is in a process of change, which means that there is a transformation process going on, where the earth is moving to a new phase of its development. And so I started to support this together with my colleagues. We created a network, international network, and we work on one side in stone with cosmograms, creating geopuncture circles around the globe, and on the other side we work with telepathic workshops to support the processes of the earth changes.
Badurina e Božena Končić Badurina sono un'artista e una ricercatrice antropologa che hanno reso possibile un approfondimento in mostra sul tema del caregiver e delle badanti e dei badanti in Italia. In particolar modo questa sezione di mostra, che è dedicata all'uguaglianza di genere, racconta attraverso il lavoro di Končić Badurina e Duranic le difficoltà di questo mondo, in particolar modo nella relazione tra la penisola balcanica e l'Italia. È qui narrata una storia commoventissima di una badante croata che compie ogni 15 giorni un viaggio in Italia per sostenere delle persone in difficoltà. È alle mie spalle stampata inoltre una convenzione, che è la Convenzione europea dei diritti per i badanti e i caregiver, di cui le artiste hanno deciso di fare un approfondimento attraverso la stampa di tutti i punti che regolamentano il lavoro sommerso di queste persone.
The excerpts from the notebook here and there. 5 days before going to Italy and she's already having a stomachache. The night before the trip she doesn't sleep at all. She works 15 days and spends 15 days at home. That way it's easier to endure. She takes her own sheets and pillowcases with her to Italy every time. She likes to sleep on her own linen. When she opened her bedroom window the first morning in Felletto, the sun was on the wrong side. That threw her off completely. She always leaves her room door ajar. That way she can see the light and hear sounds coming from the madam's room. Her room in Sondrio reminded her of a train's sleeping car. The balcony door could only be opened when you put the chair on the cot and move all of it to the side. Very quickly, she realized what her duty was in this house. When she wasn't busy in the kitchen, she was supposed to be invisible in her room, but ready to respond at any moment should the madam need her. That's why she always had a feeling of being in a waiting room, like at the doctor's. Besides the family photos, she always carries a photo of her kitchen with her. Some people don't miss their home at all. Some women say, I don't get any rest until I go away. But not her, she's not like that. She misses her house. She wasn't allowed to use their house phone, so she usually called her family from a public phone booth. She would buy 10,000 lira cards so she could talk without worry. Later, with the advent of mobile phones, her daughter would say to her, Mom, send me a text. Why would I send you a text? I want to hear your voice, she would answer. Twice a day, in the morning and afternoon, she makes Turkish coffee. She can't stand espresso, neither the taste nor the smell. That's why she takes at least a pound of ground coffee beans for Turkish coffee every time she goes to Italy. She also takes a few packs of cigarettes. While liras were still in use, the table would be covered in money. But when euro came, it wasn't the same anymore. She cooks every day and sets aside and freezes a portion for her husband, so he has something to eat while she's gone. She didn't cry neither coming nor going. She knew she had to go. They needed the money. She said to herself, if others can do it, so can I.
Nel piazzale del museo campeggiano 9 angeli. Sono i minatori che insieme ad altri scioperanti nel corso degli anni 2000 hanno contribuito alla caduta del governo di Milosevic. Questo artista ci racconta in maniera assolutamente nitida l'importanza che questi attori hanno avuto nel cambio di passo della politica contemporanea. In particolar modo questo fa parte di una rassegna più ampia che si trova nell'ambito della sezione Brotherhood, fratellanza, un affondo sulla mostra nel mondo del lavoro e dell'importanza della solidarietà tra i lavoratori.
In October 2000 I was in Belgrade and I saw on the streets thousands of people, citizens who was protesting against Milosevic. It was just after the elections and Milosevic was trying to fake the results of the elections. In that period the other part of Serbia didn't know what's going on because Milosevic was controlling all media and he was saying that these protesters is just a small group of people who was public enemies or betrayers. In the moment when workers, miners in Kolubara decided to get in the strike, Milosevic couldn't anymore manipulate it in the media that this is the public enemies, the workers who are hard earning money. And in a certain way that was a turning point in this protest. In that moment, police and the government decided to stay on the side of the protesters to support the miners, and that was the fall of Milosevic regime. It was at the same time the end of the 20th century and the end of the socialism in this area. When I was invited in 2004 from the Museum of Contemporary Art in Belgrade to participate or to create site-specific project, I decided to work something with this situation which I was experienced. And I immediately started in communication with the miners and organizers of the strike in these Kolubara mining fields. And I immediately get certain kind of ideas how I want to work with this project. So for me it was a really important fact that the workers and the miners realized that they could have a power in their hands and that they can contribute to the political changings. This is because of these Kolubara mining fields producing 50% of electricity for the whole Serbia, producing the coal which produce the electricity for the whole of the Serbia, and through this they realize that they can have a power with which they can somehow negotiate in this situation. I immediately had somehow also in my mind the images that I would like to work with these huge monumental images, like iconic images which are in a certain way celebrating the worker. The workers was really actually celebrated during the socialism. They moral values and the labor was celebrated, and they was treated as fundaments of the society. So the images of the workers, their stories was present all around the media, in the press media, television. But nowadays, after the fall of socialism, we can't see these kind of images anymore in the media, the images of the workers. So I want to celebrate the idea of ordinary man, which is right to the image of certain kind of a hero. And also I was work on this project for 2 years, and I created 3 photographic series and a film. So I ended the project in 2006, and I decided to give a title to this project, Angels with Dirty Faces. Angels with Dirty Faces have a certain kind of a reference, metaphorical reference toward the situation which were lived in the 90s and after 2000s. And this is paradoxical situation that we have on the one side the workers who are hard earning money and living on the edge of the poverty, and at the same time have a clear conscience and clean conscience and the clean hands. But on the other side, we have politicians who've been manipulated, and because of their greed and the violence toward the people, their conscience and their hands stay dirty.
Concludiamo quindi questa maratona e questo tour virtuale nella mostra con il video di Igor Grubić, che ringraziamo insieme a tutti gli altri artisti per averci voluto dare un contributo così fondamentale nella comprensione del loro lavoro, rinnovando quindi l'invito a tutti quanti gli spettatori a venire a vedere la mostra, che sarà aperta fino al 12 di settembre.